You recall we were considering your Section 2813 authorization, and we considered the list of people, the 12 people. You could not yesterday recall, no, we confirmed that only the first 3 people in that Annexure A were referred to in the Section 27 affidavit by Mr. Adams. The issue was where the names of those itemized from number 4 to 12 were obtained from, because at that point, we agreed that no independent investigations had been undertaken by IDAC. You could not immediately recall. I just want to check whether overnight you were able to recall, or in engagement with anyone, you were reminded as to the source of those other names. Thanks.
Commissioners, as I didn't have an independent recollection yesterday, I did engage with Advocate Ramsamy, whom I said did submit the application. And I provide the response as I was given I had no recollection myself. And Advocate Ramsamy indicated last night that she had got the list of names from my office, wherein I had indicated that this list had been provided by Mr. Perumal after his having engaged with Mr. Adams. And that is the recollection she has and the recollection she provided to me. I cannot gainsay her recollection because I don't have an independent recollection. So
Indeed.
I'm not prepared to say that she is wrong, except that that's the recollection she has.
So, if we accept what you say, and similarly, we too don't have a basis to gainsay it, before you authorized even a preliminary investigation, that suggests that Mr. Perumal was already engaging with Mr. Adams.
That is correct.
Was he doing so within his mandate in circumstances where IDAC itself had not even authorized an investigation, a preliminary investigation, let alone an investigation in terms of Section 28? How could he do that? And on what authority does he so do?
He would have to indicate why he engaged with Mr. Adams over and beyond the initial indication of provide a Section 27 affidavit.
Okay, now as the ID.
So I'm not sure if as part of that went further for purposes of clarification, but for purposes of the process, we had a Section 27. I've given it to the prosecutor, and the prosecutor then submits an application.
And at this juncture, as I understand things, Mr. Perumal is not aware of the Section 27. Recall yesterday, you said you received it, you considered it, and you referred it to Advocate Ramsamy. So none of, the day before yesterday, I had understood you to suggest that you engaged Mr. Sissoko on that affidavit. But yesterday, you clarified that no, you hadn't.
Correct.
So, as at the time you referred it to Advocate Ramsamy, you were about the only person who was aware of that affidavit. How does Mr. Perumal become aware and go so far as to engage the complainant, Mr. Adams, to obtain further information? Technically, he has begun the investigation, unless he was informed by you.
Yesterday, I did indicate that he contacted Mr. Adams to indicate he must provide a Section 27. So he's aware of that process only, from my understanding. But what engagements he would have had with him in between that process, Commissioners, I'm unable to take further, except that he would have spoken to Mr. Adams, had him provide the Section 27. Accordingly, I received a document in an envelope. I perused the document, which is the Section 27, and I then handed that to Advocate Ramsamy for the legal process of submitting a Section 28 application.
Now, I invite you as the ID to comment on the conduct of Mr. Perumal. Do you have any comment to his conduct of initiating what would sound from what you state, his own investigation before you authorize an investigation to be undertaken by contacting the complainant and obtaining this list of names from M? Is that lawful?
In terms of the process we followed, and after he engaged with Mr. Adams, because I don't have the direct knowledge of why and if he engaged with Mr. Adams, I do rely on Advocate Ramsamy. There isn't a process for that action.
Please say that again.
I said there isn't a process that I can refer to commissioners for why he would have engaged Mr. Adams.
No, I'm asking you about the legality of his conduct. You are the head of the institution. This is brought to your knowledge that a very senior member of IDAC has conducted himself in the fashion that you describe. And I want to find out from you whether you consider that to be legal, and if it is not, what your comment to it is. And this is before I get to my third question, is now that you've been informed, what steps are you going to take?
So, nothing, I think procedurally, I get the legality thereof. Procedurally, investigators would engage witnesses or complainants. But in terms of counsel asking me to provide a specific rule or legislation, there isn't one. Having brought that, now having the answer from Advocate Ramsamy, we would have to address the conduct of Mr. Perumal. But it is conduct that we would have to escalate, as we do have the IDAC judge for an independent consideration of the legality and or not of his conduct.
You escalate before you consider. You are the head of the institution.
Yes.
So you won't consider the conduct, you won't deal with it, you'll immediately escalate.
No, I'm not saying that I won't. I have to consider the conduct. I have to get a response from him. If the response is outside of the framework and the legality, it must then be dealt with through the IDAC judge.
Okay. Now, please locate it within the framework of legality in circumstances where on your own testimony, you have not authorized an investigation.
There is no legality that I can point to, commissioners.
And it's important because as we go through these matters, one gets a sense, and I may be wholly wrong, and I would need you to help me to change my mind. It would sound like everybody in IDAC is on a frolic of their own. And this is the start now with this particular investigation. And as we'll see going forward, that seems to permeate through the organization. Is my understanding correct or wholly wrong? And I do accept I may have the wrong end of the stick.
They don't go on a frolic of their own. Okay. We do adhere to the processes and the prescripts. I'm not saying someone may not deviate. Investigators are out in the field. If there is a deviation and it comes to the fore, then we have to deal with it and understand why the deviation. But there isn't a frolic of their own. They have to adhere to the internal processes. And as I did indicate to commissioners yesterday, apart from the legislation, we have tried to operationalize things in a practical manner. But if they have worked outside of the accepted framework, which is common knowledge in IDAC, then I take the point that council makes.
Can I just express?
I take the point that council makes.
Can I just express the point differently? That you don't have standard operating procedures. You don't have protocols. And I say this because from the first day that you testified, as you were reading your statement, the question kept coming up, do you have anything that regulates this internally? And you kept saying, it's how we practice, it's what we do. So the comment comes from that context, that you seem to have these unwritten rules of how we do things, and which allow people, your people, to make it up as they go along. You know, if Mr. Perumal, Chief Perumal, wants to speak to Mr. Adams, there's no prescribed process that wait until we've made a decision. If what you say happened is in fact what happened, then you're telling us there's no prescribed process that he can be held to that says to him, until there is a decision that we are taking this matter on, you may not engage with a complainant or any potential witness because this and this and this could go wrong, right? About it, we all have to wait until a decision is made. If you don't have that kind of operating procedure prescribed, you could never blame him for rushing off to go and hold his conversation, whatever the content of the conversation may be, including if he chooses to prompt witnesses, you know, give me names. Do you have names? Your affidavit doesn't have names. Give me names. And what are you saying about those names? There's nothing that you could say you acted out of the boundaries of what is acceptable according to our prescripts. Is that not a fair comment to make?
I take your point. If you would allow me just to add something.
Yeah.
It's not that we work without process. There are processes that are mapped out in the majority of, you get to section 27, when you get to 27, what it is that we must, there's a few of the, not a few, there's quite a few of those processes, Commissioner Baloyi, that have been made practical for operational purposes. The point that is important that you make is...
When you say made practical, what do you mean? That everyone understands that's how we do it?
A process map.
Okay.
So they are process mapped.
Okay.
So there are those process maps. The point that you make that becomes important for a future consideration is what are all the eventualities that we should prepare for if you take this example? And did we prepare for those eventualities? And I think that is an important point that Commissioner makes, and one that I have to agree is we didn't process map every eventuality. It therefore in itself becomes a flaw in the process, in step 1 to step 2. But if something happens in between, what are the do's and don'ts? And in that environment, it has been somewhat difficult to process map every single thing, but I do take your point.
Yes, I don't want you to misunderstand me, to be saying your processes must provide for every eventuality. That would be to put too high a demand and standard that are on you and may prove to be impractical. It's not anything close to that I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is, and then maybe let me put it kind of differently, it is, I would expect that Chief Perumal and everybody in IDAC, not just you, everybody knows that before a decision is made to take on a case, we do not speak to witnesses. We do not speak to complainants. I would expect that.
Correct.
And if there is such a position, and then we are able to judge Chief Perumal's conduct, that you acted outside of a prescribed protocol, in that you went and consulted with a complainant, a potential complainant, even before a decision was made to take on this case for investigation. I'm speaking to that we have to have a measure against which we measure and consider what you say Chief Perumal did, that he went and got a list of people who are not in the Section 27, before you made a decision to take the matter on. At the very least, it's a point of curiosity. Why would and how would he have gone and gotten these names if there was no decision yet at that point? And I would want to be able to say to him, you acted to him, not you, to him, Chief, you acted contrary to your operating procedures. Explain why in this case you did that. You understand the point I'm making?
I understand the point you are making, Commissioner Baloyi.
Yes.
And I did say yesterday that or one of the days, sorry if I got my days mixed, but as has been the case when a Section 27 is maybe lacking in some or other detail, I just want that clarification. I'm not taking it to Mr. Perumal, that we do engage with the referee for purposes of clarity and or more information. That is allowed. But in terms of you can't do it. There's no hard and fast rule that you can't do it. It's preferable you really don't do it, except for purposes of clarity, where Section 27 may lack sufficiency of detail in terms of the requirements. Is there reasonable suspicion made out, etc., etc. Those are the grounds on which I would.
Yes, I understand you explained that yesterday. I would expect that in that process of seeking clarifications, that's a formal process. It's recorded. It is a formal process. You may not at that point yet have decided to take on the case, but I would expect that there would be a record that Chief Perumal spoke to Mr. Adams on this day, and this is what was discussed between them. Otherwise, if you don't have that kind of formal record, then there's no accountability whatsoever. You have no idea what your people are doing. So yes. I expect that there must be a formal process, and Chief Perumal should be able to say to us that I got an instruction I got this Section 27 from the ID on this date, right? And we determined, or I determined, that it requires particulars. I met with Mr. Adams on this day, right? And here's what I discussed with him. These are the questions I asked him, and this is where I got these names. I'm talking about that kind of process. It has to be in place. Otherwise, you are in an environment where people indeed get to do what they decide is appropriate without any guidance.
Yes, there should be a record in the person's diary,
yes,
and or an information note compiled,
yes,
of what the engagement was. I agree with you, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you.
Advocate Johnson, just for clarity, you said that your processes do not